Support for Steppin Out is made possible by local author Sarada Bonnet. In Notes for Forgiveness, Bonnet shares her childhood story as daughter of famed rockabilly singer Sherry Davis. Notes for Forgiveness, available in bookstores and at saradabonnet.com.
I'm Peggy Scott Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out, spotlighting the New Orleans area's arts and entertainment scene. Seated at our table tonight, Casey Groves, writer and performer of Seelos, Doctor of Souls, a 28-character, one-man play, premiering as a special on WYES tomorrow evening. Welcome, Casey.
Thank you.
Hello. Making her Stepping Out debut, Mamie Sterx Gasperecz, Executive Director of the Hermann-Grima Historic House, as well as the Gallier House, too. So you're a busy bee.
Yes.
Great to see you.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
With a brand new book. Looking forward to talking about that. And he's back. Tony Award winner, singer, lover of New Orleans and all things New Orleans, Michael Cerveris, and we love him. And he's got his band with him a little later, Loose Cattle. Welcome.
Thanks.
Hello, sir.
Great to be here.
And by the way, Poppy will be back next week. And Alan Smason, though, is here, editor of the online Crescent City Jewish News. Hello.
Hello there.
Hi there. And we start, first of all, with, since you're in the Poppy chair, we have to talk some culinary matters here, too.
Very
but
important
you, I know, are very excited about a brand new book with the most interesting title. Tell us about that.
Thank you, Peggy. It is a fascinating title. It's a different way to look at 19th century life. Rather than just through the eyes of one of our two historic house museums or through the three founding families, we decided that we would take a look at this era through luxury, inequity, and yellow fever. Luxury, of course, because that was the first golden age
showing you photos from
of
this
New
brand
Orleans.
new book.
Yes. Inequity, because of the challenges of a variety of different things: women, enslaved workers, free people of color, class differences, and of course yellow fever, because one of the things that you knew in life of 19th century New Orleans is how close you were to death, dying, and illness.
Yes, it wasn't a foreign topic, was it? We should mention that Carrie McCafferty, that very beloved photographer, is the photographer for this book, and it chronicles both houses.
Absolutely, it does. As well as Carrie did a masterful job of telling this visual history through the eyes of these people, and also the story of the Christian Women's Exchange, the former Christian Women's Exchange, the Women's Exchange, that today still owns and operates both museums.
With Hermann-Grima, they actually published in the early days one of the earliest cookbooks.
Absolutely. The Creole Cookery was one of the two World Cotton Centennial cookbooks, that and La Focaccia O'Hearn's La Cuisine Creole. And the Creole Cookery still lives today. It has yet to be translated, as I am nudged by a few local culinary experts. And that opportunity is shown every week when we go to our hearth kitchen at the Hermann-Grima and we demonstrate 19th century cooking and some of the original recipes that were used then.
Let's talk a little bit about 19th century dining traditions as we show some of the wonderful photos of the dining room. Meals were fairly fancy, weren't they?
Luxury as part of that. That
For
is
a wealthy
very
family,
wealthy family, but it required a great number of servants, a lot of implements, and actually a lot of very heavy tools. In 1831, when the Hermann-Grima house was built, they had the ultimate of all of the luxurious things we'd have. I always say it's the Viking kitchen of 1831.
Right.
They had one of everything that anyone could buy. The number of people that it took to put a meal on the table was really staggering.
No, but these have been not only slaves, but sometimes immigrants, too.
That's correct. That's correct. There were a number of enslaved workers, and actually today we're doing some research on who those people were that lived on our properties. But free people of color, craftsmen came in to build these wonderful culinary treasures that we have today, but slaves and immigrants and all kinds of help. It just took a variety of people to get a meal on the table.
I would think these meals would have lasted a long time, too.
The meals lasted generally a number of hours. Now, if you think about people who can afford these kind of things, time is really in their control. So the working class didn't stop to have a several-hour meal on an afternoon, but the adults, the gentleman of the house would come home, he might bring some business associates, and they would launch a meal with French service, as we called it. So a number of servants would come and serve, taking the set of china on the table off, taking the tablecloth off, going to the next course that would be served, then taking that off. 6 to 8 courses would be nothing.
Now we should point out Hermann-Grima, those families, but we go to the Gallier house on Royal Street, and James Gallier.
What a fascinating man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, he and his father were the architects of 19th century New Orleans. So many of his treasures still are with us today. That was really his home and his design for he and his young family. So the kitchen was actually inside the Gallier house. It was a cast iron stove that was a bit safer than the open fire of the Hermann-Grima. So if you think that, but 1831, the open hearth, 1860, when the Gallier house was completed, the kitchen was inside. And I always like to think about where our kitchens are today and how everyone stays in your kitchen. So if you
now you're celebrating this book next week with a soiree.
We are very excited to have our media launch on Wednesday. This book has been in the works for a while, and we were so lucky to have Carrie work with us.
And how can folks buy the book?
www.hggh.org. You can go directly to us, and we will also list on our website a number of other local retailers, independent booksellers, Barnes & Noble, where you could also
Once again,
find the
congratulations.
book. Thank you, Peggy.
And we turn to Michael, and it is so much fun to see you being the bad guy on The Good Wife.
It's just a particular skill of mine.
Now, and you all shoot that in New York.
We do.
Right? So
we
that's
do. So
convenient.
a lot of frequent flyer miles.
Yes, a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, but you're also an Orleanian. But in the multifaceted aspect of Michael, you also have a country music band called Loose Cattle. Tell us about this.
Well, you know, I grew up in West Virginia, but of course, as a kid, the last thing I wanted to listen to was country music because, you know, I just wanted to listen to rock and roll all the time. But throughout my life, I was always playing in bands as much as I was doing acting, and probably, you know, could have gone that way if things had sort of worked out differently. But I've always had bands, and Loose Cattle began a few years ago. Kimberly Kay and I were dating at the time, and looking for something to do instead of arguing. So we decided to start a band, and we're no longer together, but the band is. So you know.
Tell us about the song we'll be hearing.
This is sung by Buddy and Julie Miller called "Gasoline and Matches."
All right, we'll let you get up and go over to your band, and this, of course, is from their North of Houston CD. And tonight, if you're out late, you can go see them actually at Chickawawa too. So they'll be all over town. Now let's hear "Gasoline and Matches."
Hi, I'm Michael Cerveris, and this is Loose Cattle. Alex Harvey on the mandolin, Gabriel Kaplan on the electric guitar, Eddie Zweibach on the drums, Lorenzo Wolf on the bass guitar, Rob Hector on the fiddle, and Miss Kimberly Kay on vocals. This is Gasoline and Matches.
Baby, 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 let me have my say. Baby, 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 let me have my way. Gonna keep on knocking till that door latches. You and me are gasoline and matches. Baby, 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 when it's cold and dark. Baby, 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 you make me feel a spark. Yeah, I feel a spark and then the fire catches. You and me are gasoline and matches. Pull my pin and you trip my wire. You come in and set my heart on fire. You knock me out, you knock me off my axis. You and me, gasoline and matches. Baby, 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 when you make your move. Baby, 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 I can feel your groove. The resistance of a strong-willed man's and ashes. You and me are gasoline and matches. Set it on fire, Rob. a gasoline and matches. You and me a gasoline and matches. You and me a gasoline and matches.
We'll get to hear more of Loose Cattle a little bit later, but now it's time to talk in a more serious tones about Father Seelos. Congratulations. Tell us about this play. You actually wrote it?
Yes, I spent about a year and a half researching the play. I did another play about St. Damien when I was a senior in high school at De La Salle here in New Orleans. I had a Christian Brother theater director who asked me to do that play. And I'd been performing that play. I'd done about 160 performances of that play as an adult. And when I moved back home to New Orleans, I toured that play around the country and to Hawaii, where St. Damien worked and served. When I moved back home, my parents were like, they're very devout Catholics, and they were like, you should think about doing a play about Father Seelos, and I said, well, that's an interesting idea. So I did some research about him, and I was really moved by his story about his ministry of healing, where he would pray over people and they'd become healed of their illnesses and injuries, and also he helped souls in the confessional. It was
But ultimately, you were commissioned by the head of the Seelos Center to actually do this.
That's
play,
right. That's right. So I put in a proposal to Father Byron, who runs the Seelos Shrine here in New Orleans, or the Seelos Center. And he accepted the proposal, and he went around and collected some money for funding for me to spend some solid amount of time on working on it, and it took about a year and a half and started
And you do
doing
this
it.
all over the country. Now, before we go to the clip, which I'd like you to set up, we should tribute also your producer and your editor, huh?
That's right. That's right. So the writing of the play was a journey of its own, but doing this filmed version, which we shot at WYES Studios here, I'm very thankful for that opportunity. But the director is William Gill. He edited it. He edited it and filmed it. Yeah, it was a labor of love for him. He really put his heart and soul into it.
Well, set this clip up for us, please.
So Seelos was working in Pennsylvania, and there was this family that wanted to have their children baptized by a Catholic priest. They were Protestants. And the husband, was this German wild man who lived in the woods, and his wife was this West Virginia Appalachian woman. And so we're going to see three characters, Father Seelos and these Mr. Herpel and his wife, and it's a conversion story later, but in the beginning it's kind of like a bit rough and tumble for Father Seelos.
Let's take a look. Seelos.
Father, willkommen! I want you to baptize these two children right now. Today is the day I have picked for this. If it doesn't happen now, it won't happen at all. I'm tired of always being sent away and it never happens. That's all very well, my dear man. But if these children are to be baptized by a Catholic priest, they must also be brought up in the Catholic faith. And who's going to take this job upon himself? Well, this here woman doesn't have any religion. She ought to become a Catholic. Oh, would you agree to such a step? Yep. Well, then let's immediately go over the main points together. The wife was to become a Catholic, and this was not such a small matter. She had very little religious training. And this first sacrament of baptism comes to us from a man who lived on honey and locusts in the wilderness. You hear that, Mary? A holy man just like me. Who's he talking about, Henry? Johann the Baptist. He poured water over the Lord's head in the river, and a great light came from the sky. That's why we get baptized, so we can be like Jesus. Oh, baptized.
Tomorrow night. Congratulations, Casey.
Thank you.
7 o'clock, and you can see the other air dates and go to WYES.org for more information. But congratulations, Casey.
Thank you. Very excited.
And we turn to Alan, Mr. Theater. Lots of theater here.
Well, we're going to
huh?
take a little departure because the past several weeks have been a busy one for me as I've worked on this.
With your other day job.
CCJN Source, that's correct. It's our award-winning resource guide for the Jewish community, but anybody can probably pick up a couple of copies. Source is available all across the town, and I want to tell you that there's a lot of interesting things in it, but the most important thing for me is it has a lot of connection for the local Jewish community to the development and formation of jazz music right here in the Crescent City. One of the articles that I'm most proud of is the Satchmo and the Star article, in which I researched it, and it's a story about why and how Louis Armstrong, for most of his adult life, if you will, wore a Mogen David, a Star of David. And the story behind it was only corroborated about 2.5 weeks ago, so this is all fresh. We have never before published pictures. I want everybody to pick up a copy. Dornax, WYES, all over town. Okay, let's go to the announcement that we had expected last week. We talked about B. Michael Howard, the artistic director at Summer Lyric at Tulane, did indeed announce his retirement. Those are some mighty big shoes. He's been there since 1968. I think about 47 years or so. The program has never been stronger. So C. Leonard Raybon, who is going to be the interim artistic director, has some mighty big shoes to fill. Again, the program has never been on more sound basis. I believe that a new artistic director will be announced, but not anything forthcoming for the time being. Recently, Broomstick opened. John Bigonnet, who's one of our most well-known of playwrights, took the wraps off his latest work. Broomstick is now playing for the next month at the Ashe Cultural Center on Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard as part of Southern Repertory's opening for their season. The actress who plays the role of the witch, the elderly woman, if you will, is the wonderfully talented Leanne Pattison, who won a Big Easy Award a couple of years back for The Trip to Bountiful. The entire play is written in iambic pentameter. It's sort of an homage to William Shakespeare and done deliberately by John Bigonnet. In that particular parlance, she reveals layers about herself. She talks about a lost love. She talks about all sorts of things that have affected her life. She talks about being really an independent and really an audacious sort of woman. She reveals all of these layers through the poetry. And again, it puts us into a situation where we ask these questions. Is a woman who is independent, who is not fitting into society's norms, is she indeed a witch? And she should be treated as a pariah? And do we put people who are strong women in that particular sense, do we put them in roles where we're scared of them? Those are the sort of fearsome roles that you might want to put into question about why. And it's a role that deserves a lot of examination. It makes us consider her darker nature. David Raffel, Mike Harkins, and Joan Lung created a beautiful, eerie set, and great sound, well-executed lighting, and Cecile Casey Covert should also be noted for the witch's costume. Again, Broomstick will run through November the 2nd at the Ashe Cultural Center. Don't miss it. I think it's a really worthwhile project. Across the way in the Marigny area, at the Always Theater, being renamed now the Marigny Theater, we have Shiner. Alex Ates is directing this NOLA project production, and this is now going to be on for the next 3 weeks. The play by Christian Durso has some very sharp writing. Alexander Neer makes his New Orleans premiere with this performance, and also Cecile Montaigne, who we will remember as Maggie the Cat in last year's Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. She is Margot. This is a situation. Shiner refers to the colloquialism for a black eye, and it's sported by Jake, the first of the two 13-year-old characters we meet. Jake meets Margot, the loner who's the self-declared president of the grunge rock club, if you will. Jake and Margot set down a path of discovery about themselves, about the power of music, and particularly that of Kurt Cobain and Nirvana. To be certain, this is a disturbing play. It's not because of the themes it brings up, which include suicide, drug use, and codependency, but it's really a journey for them to find themselves through that music of the grunge era. They find first physical abuse, the Shiner dealing with that, and again, their final decision is to see Nirvana and to dispatch themselves in a suicide pact, and the suicide death of Kurt Cobain then enters into that. And again, it's a play about a connection, though, between two angst-filled youngsters, and again, very young people who are going to try to make a decision which may be beyond where they should be in life. Again, it's a really simple stage, but a very effective one. And again, I would remind everybody that this is going to be on for the next 3 weeks. It's going to be at the Always, or the Marigny Theater, if you will. The show continues through October the 18th. Also, this is the final week for Sam Shepard's Lie of the Mind at the Mid-City Theater, which unfortunately I haven't been able to report on, but they've been doing great houses there in terms of audience and gotten a lot of great reviews. So I would expect, if you have a chance to go see that, a Sam Shepard play is always worth seeing. And a shout out for George Dansker. He's going to be putting on a lecture about the golden age of Broadway from 1943 to 1960, and I guess it'll cover from Oklahoma up to around the time program of perhaps how to succeed in business. Thursday, October the 9th at the New Orleans Public Library, main branch, second floor. Check it out, 6:30.
Thank you so much. And it's time for our Artist Spotlight. Tonight we're featuring 2 works of art. The first is the Archaeology of Solitude from Bernard Maddox's series of new works of the same title. Maddox studied anthropology and earned his MFA at Tulane University, where he also taught ceramics in the 80s. His exhibit opens tomorrow evening with a reception from 6 to 9 p.m. at Carol Robinson Gallery on Magazine Street, on view through October 28th. CarolRobinson.com for more info on that. And the second is titled New Marigny, an etching by George Schmidt depicting a house on St. Roch Avenue in New Orleans, of course. It's part of a neighborhood series by Schmidt in honor of and benefiting the Preservation Resource Center's 40th anniversary. It opens with a reception tomorrow evening from 6 to 9 at his gallery on Julia Street. Visit georgeschmidt.com or prcno.org for more info. Both are being held in conjunction with Art for Art's Sake, and that's gallery openings all over town along Magazine Street and downtown in the Arts District as well. And visit WYES.org for our online calendar, including Musica da Camera concert this Sunday at Ursuline, the Cole Brothers Circus next week in Slidell and Hammond, Theater on Tap next weekend, and Bravo, a fundraiser to benefit cancer research. You can go to WYES.org to see our program online too. New Orleans Magazine's Quiz Queen, though, is with us tonight, and she has a question for us. Last time, Linda Bryan gave us the names of the prominent building on the UNO campus and the governor it was named after. Earl K. Long Library, spent many a night at Earl K. Long Library. Now tonight's question. This 1995 hurricane made landfall along the Gulf Coast on October the 4th. Its name begins with the letter O. Name the hurricane and the Gulf Coast town to which it landed closest. Email your answers to steppinout@wyes.org. Our prizes: a Louisiana Life magazine subscription, a gift certificate for 2 courtesy of Vianne's Tea House, offering their culinary and gourmet tea experience. And tonight, we have an apron is worn by WYES staffer Steve Golombieski with the message, play it again, salmon from our friends at wearablevegetables.com. And now our picks. Michael.
We did this Paul McCartney tribute night at last month. We're going to do a John Lennon tribute on October 9th at Tipitina's.
Okay, and Mamie.
At the Hermann-Grima house in October, we are having our annual morning tour with a new twist. We're partnering with Save Our Cemeteries organization, so you can go to our websites and buy a ticket for a cemetery tour and the tour of the house.
Great, Casey.
Keep your eyes peeled for Skin of Our Teeth at Delgado, which I'll be directing in the spring.
All right, Alan.
And speaking of college productions, Endgame is going to be at UNO, rather Loyola University, the Lower Depths Theater, and at UNO, the Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo is going to be playing through October the 11th.
Okay, and now my quick picks here. Here are a couple of photos of the pet blessing at St. Anna's for the Feast of St. Francis. That's tomorrow. The service will start at 10:30 a.m. at St. Anna's Episcopal Church on Esplanade Avenue. Visit stannanola.org. And the Historic New Orleans Collection will celebrate the release of its new book, A Fine Body of Men on the Louisiana Civil War Regiment by Louisiana native and genealogist Donald Pete Moriarty. Next Wednesday evening with a reception at 533 Royal Street. The American Italian Cultural Center presents Jazz in the Piazza next Friday evening, celebrating Columbus Day, and it'll pay homage to American Italians' contributions to jazz and will include 4 musicians from Italy and 5 local musicians. And I'm so excited, actor Franco Nero, Lancelot from Camelot, okay? And Rick Rack Nola, looking ahead, a local kids costuming nonprofit, has a partnership with Southern Costumes to collect costumes, costume pieces, and dance wear, and formal wear, and any fun prop pieces for their Halloween costume drive. Southern Costumes on Lafayette Street downtown will be open the next 2 Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., where a donation will earn you a 10% off coupon. Visit rickragnola.com for more information. And now we leave you with more from Loose Cattle performing New Amsterdam, written by Michael Cerveris and Paul Sanchez. Thanks for watching, and good night.
Covered in vinyl, buried in books, settling scores with to say. But if life is all illusion, that means there's no dead ends. Here in New Amsterdam, lost in New Amsterdam, Gibson in my arms, think of you and sing. Remember in the nights, you were my everything. Riding hard-worn highways, a Pentamelion, lost in New Amsterdam, lost in New Amsterdam, lost in New Amsterdam.
Support for Steppin Out is made possible by local author Sarada Bonnet. In Notes of Forgiveness, Bonnet shares her childhood story as daughter of famed rockabilly singer Sherry Davis. Notes of Forgiveness, available in bookstores and at saradabonnet.com.